2 weeks, that's all we've got left in the NRL regular season. 2 weeks for the contenders to lock themselves into position. 2 weeks for the teams on the edge of the bubble to stay alive. And 2 weeks for injuries, suspensions, and all that team list chaos to decide who gets a shot at September and finals football. In the NRLW, that's 3 weeks left, though. 3 weeks to sort out their finals picture. 3 weeks for the chasing pack to prove they can go with the best. But before we do get into the teams this week on Team List Tuesday, we start with one of the best rugby league stories of the year, where a bit of humanity in the NRL prevails. And it is Jai Arrow, of course, the story of the NRL allowing him to come on as an extra player for South Sydney over the final 2 weeks. He will start the game, remain on the field for a couple of seconds, come off as a free interchange, which will allow him to get to 100 NRL career caps. Wonderful story, wonderful move from the NRL. So hello and welcome back to Team List Tuesday. Before we get into it, make sure if you haven't already, you've hit like on the video, hit subscribe on the channel, and then jump into the comments down below and let us know what is the biggest needle mover from this week's Team List Tuesday, both across the NRL and NRLW. This is your short, sharp Team List hit, recapping the teams that your squad's named and what's going to be the key ins, outs, the changes, and what it means for your team this weekend, especially on the cusp of finals. We'll rip through the NRL, then into the NRLW. So let's start. As I said, big news off the top. Jai Arrow's 100th Rabbitohs game will happen. A brilliant rugby league story. Jai, South Sydney, the NRL and the RLPA have all worked together on a one-off initiative that will allow him to get to his 100 first-grade games for the Rabbitohs. He'll suit up this week against his former club, the Gold Coast Titans. They'll wear a special Jai Arrow commemorative jersey. And again, in round 27 against the Roosters, he'll lead the team out. He'll take part in the opening seconds, and then he'll be switched straight off. Interchange immediately without taking part in the general play, and be able to sit on the bench for the full 80 in playing kit, a special exemption, and a genuinely special gesture. Jai's played 178 NRL games overall, 98 of those for South Sydney. And this will allow him to become just the 67th man in the Rabbitohs' long and distinguished history to reach 100 first-grade games for the club. Giving everything he's going through, everything he's given to the game, but his motor neuron disease diagnosis, this is bigger than rugby league. It is recognition, it is respect, and it's rugby league at its absolute best. While we're talking about rugby league at its absolute best, one of the long-serving South Sydney players now at the Brisbane Broncos and Adam Reynolds will not get his best farewell. Unfortunately, the Broncos have confirmed that Reynolds won't be available for the final 2 regular season games because of his ongoing calf issues. Reynolds has already announced his retirement this season, so this will mean that we won't see Adam Reynolds on the NRL field again. He has played his last NRL game. A premiership-winning halfback, a South Sydney legend, a Brisbane leader as well, and one of the great game managers of the modern era. We will do Adam Reynolds properly separately because he deserves a little more than just a throwaway line. But for Team List Tuesday, this is it. Brisbane now going to the final fortnight without Reece Walsh and without Adam Reynolds. A massive spine shift at a tough time, but they're already outside that finals picture. Speaking of the Broncos, let's start our Team List Tuesday right there as they take on the Storm. Thursday night at Suncorp, the Broncos named the same 19 as last week for that win against Canberra. Ben Hunt will remain at halfback. As we said, Adam Reynolds done for the season. Thomas Duffy stays on the bench. Hayes Perham keeps that number 1 jersey after a strong showing against the Raiders last week. The Broncos still have a strong representative core with Haas, Carrigan, Staggs, Ezra Mann, Ben Hunt, all there. On the Storm side, Jerome Hughes is back in a huge boost, returning at halfback after a number of games out with a hamstring injury. That sees Tyron Wishart shift to centre after playing 7 last week. Jack Howarth is out. He's been stood down for the rest of the season to rest him and have surgery on a previous shoulder injury that he carried. Marion Seve joins the interchange. He returns after 2 New South Wales Cup games following an extended layoff with a triceps injury. So what does it mean? Well, Brisbane is stable, but they are stable without Reynolds and Walsh. Melbourne get Jerome Hughes back next to Cameron Munster. Finally, their first choice halves pairing in a massive Thursday night game. Massive for both these clubs just in terms of pride because we know they're already out of the finals picture. We move on to Friday, and we've got one team on the cusp of finals picture, one well out of it in the Sea Eagles and the Dragons at Brookie. Manly, Tolu Kolo is out with his ankle injury from last week. Josh Felaherty starts at centre after his 3 tries last week in rapid succession. On Tony Large, his name for his NRL debut, added to the interchange. A big name, young player to watch. Tom Trbojevic remains at fullback, which is huge for Manly's attacking shape. He ran for over 150 metres last week. Meanwhile, for the Dragons, Jacob Little is out, which is a huge hole. They do have Damien Cook on the bench, though, that they bring straight in to hooker. Little's calf injury ruling him out. Damien Cook gives some experience there in the starting lineup, but Little's looked like the absolute spark. Connor Mulheisen joins the bench. If he gets on, it'll be his first NRL game in almost 2 years if he plays. So what does it mean? Manly lose Kohler but have Turbo, so they're pretty solid. The Dragons lose Little, so Cook will have to take control of the ruck from the opening whistle, and it is a big out. Both sides reshuffling through key attacking points. Manly must win this game to keep their finals hopes alive. The late game on Friday, Panthers versus Bulldogs. This one's got a lot of weight on it for both sides. For the Panthers, Jack Cogger is out. 3-game ban for that careless high tackle. Jack Cole shifts into 5'8", the direct replacement. Blaze Talangi comes onto the bench after playing New South Wales Cup over the past fortnight. Don't put it past Ivan Cleary for some late reshuffles and rejigs. We've seen that a lot in his spine in recent weeks. Jackson Edgar also comes onto the interchange and could be an option in some of those reshuffles. For the Dogs, Anari Tuala is back, returns on the wing after missing last week with a knee injury. Kurt Mann is out with a groin injury. Jack Underhill comes onto the 6-man bench and gives them some size and punch. Bulldogs keep their spine and their strike pieces with Tracy, Crichton, Galvin, Burton, all in the key pieces. Obviously, kick out and Preston in the back row as well. Penrith lose Cogger, so Cole gets another chance in a final-style game to try and shine. Bulldogs, there will be a hole there with Mann's utility value, but they do boost themselves with Tuala. This is a proper top-end test 2 weeks out from finals. The Bulldogs fighting for their finals life. Panthers trying to stay in that top 2 and keep in the contest for the minor premiership. We head to Saturday afternoon, Titans versus the Rabbitohs. Saturday, 3 p.m. For the Titans, a big loss with Beau Fermor out with an abdominal injury. Josh Patson does come back in. He returns after missing last week through concussion and replaces Fermor in the squad. For the Bunnies, Jai Arrow is named in jersey 23. His co-captain will suit up, take part in the opening seconds, and lead out his team in his 99th Rabbitohs game with round 27 to take him to 100. Latrell Mitchell listed in the reserves, closing in on a return after 12 games out. There's a little bit of talk that he could be used as a bit of an impact super sub. Lower back nerve issues still affecting his leg and calf, but he is on the mend. Jamie Humphries is named to return from an ankle injury, which is a huge boost, as is Adam Elliott from his groin injury, while Cam Murray is listed on the interchange. Souths have an extra squad layer because of that Jai Arrow exemption, so you'd expect that Cam Murray will be the man that will come straight on. So the football story is Souths getting bodies closer and some returning. The human story is obviously the Jai Arrow one, and a wonderful one that we touched on off the top. This will be one of the most emotional moments of the round. We've seen the emotion tied into this, and it's wonderful to see that interlinked so heavily with rugby league in 2026. We move to the twilight game, the Roosters versus the Dolphins. This is a huge top 4 clash at Allianz Stadium. For the Roosters, James Tedesco named to return, but he has been the last couple of weeks. Ankle injury, he's missed 3 games. Ramsey drops back to the bench, but we'll wait and see what comes on game day. Victor Radley is out with another head knock, concussion, sit-down protocols. Now Butcher starts at lock. Taylor Lasalle comes back onto the interchange. For the Dolphins, it's the same squad that beat the Eels. Max Plath named to start in the back row. Again, watch for the late change there. Potentially a Panu or someone else to come into the starting lineup. Panu named on the bench at this stage. Kurt Donahue listed in the reserves as well. Could be a late chance of coming back from that thumb injury. Connolly Lemuelu, though, he is still out with that hamstring injury. So it does mean the Roosters get Tedesco back but lose Radley. Dolphins are stable and still very live in this finals race and locking in the top 4. This has real ladder pressure on both sides, but watch for late team list news on this one. I expect reshuffles for both sides on game day. Then we head to the late game. Cowboys versus the West Tigers up in Townsville. Saturday night lights in Townsville. Perfect time of year up in far north Queensland. Tom Dearden is back. A huge inclusion. 4 games out with an ankle injury and back on deck. That pushes Purdue to centre. Jackson Purdue to centre. Zach Labour pushes out to the wing, while Jeremiah Nanai is also back returning from a hamstring injury, which sees Kai O'Donnell shift back to the bench. They are absolutely bolstered here, the Cowboys, as they continue to try and get some wins to finish their season. For the Tigers, Alex Twala's out with concussion. Alex Seyfarth starts at lock. Terrell May will come back into the starting side at prop after a late reshuffle. Saw Seyfarth start in his place last week. Sunya Taruva's been named on the bench, missed last week with a knee injury. Could be a chance for a reshuffle. Ethan Roberts also added to the bench. So the Cowboys, huge boost. Dearden and Nanai, 2 representative players coming back in at a crucial time. Tigers lose Twal and still patching pieces together. Depends how they take the momentum out of the short turnaround after that win over the Roosters. They could still be on a high, but they could come crashing back to earth. The spine for the Cowboys looks much more settled with Dearden back, and that is a huge boost for them. We go to Sunday, the Warriors versus the Knights over there in New Zealand. For the Warriors, Tamari Martin is back, returning from a hamstring injury. Chanel Harris-Tavita shifts back to 5'8". Luke Hansen makes way. Dallin Zalesniak is out after that collarbone injury. We saw the scenes of him, despite having that, running back onto the field and contributing heavily and scoring a try. Luke Lalili comes onto the wing for his first NRL game since round 11. Ali Leatawa starts at centre with Adam Pompey dropping back to the bench. Morgan Gannon also named on the bench. For the Knights, well, it's reshuffle central. Dane Gagai is back, returning from his leg injury. Fletcher Hunt pushes to the wing to cover for Dom Young, who's out with suspension. Tyson Frizzell also out with suspension. Phoenix Crossan out with knee injury. He's having a clean-out surgery on his knee, so he'll miss this week, and the Byrne should be back for week 1 of the finals. That means Harrison Graham will start at hooker. Frankie Manuelua is back, and he'll return from that concussion. Sami Salo and Diesel Hagen added to the bench. We could see a debut for Diesel Hagen. What it does mean, the Warriors get Tamari Martin back, lose Dallin Martini-Zalesniak. They're stronger through the spine. The Knights, without a host of players, Knights have a lot of moving parts for a tough trip across the ditch, and they're really trying to fight to make sure they try and maintain themselves in a shot of landing in the top 6 and getting a home semi-final week 1 of the finals. Last but not least, the Eels and Sharks, Sunday afternoon. For the Eels, Ryder Talangi is named for his NRL debut. New South Wales under-19s prop, a name to watch. Comes off the bench after 13 New South Wales Cup appearances this season. Dylan Walker's also back, returning from a wrist injury on the bench. And Bailey Simonson is back. First NRL appearance in dislocating his ankle in round 5. Apatwidle is named at fullback. Sean Russell in the centres. They could swap as they did against the Dolphins. There's a few reshuffles available to Jason Riles. For the Sharks, Braden Uele comes onto the extended interchange. Sam Stonestreet drops out. Was unused as a reserve last week. Cam McInnes has been named to start with Tom Hazelton on the interchange. Again, could be reshuffles on game day. The Sharks keep their main spine they've had last week with Kennedy, Niwaipuru, Nico Hines, and Blake Brayley. What it does mean is, the Eels get some reinforcements and a potential really high expectation debutant, while the Sharks are stable and still trying to settle and get into their finals rhythm after 2 losses and then a wobbly game against the Titans, it's fair to say. This is going to be a big test of Parramatta's late season bite against the final side, but it's also a question of where the momentum is. Let's move on before we get out of here with the NRLW Round 9 team list. We start with the Titans versus Raiders. This is a mouth-watering clash. For the Titans, no changes. She sticks to that side that's chasing now 8 straight wins. Tegan Levi has been cleared and the ankle concerns put to bed. She'll again partner Lauren Brown in the halves, so they are ready to rock and roll. For the Raiders, Charlotte Basham is out after failing her HIA. That means Holly Mae Dodd will start in the second row. Lily Boyle comes onto the bench into that bench spot, and Evie McGrath shifted up to 18th player. Titans are rolling and settled. The Raiders lose Basham, which hurts, but Dodd gives them class on the edge. They're pretty stacked as well. This is a genuine blockbuster in the NRLW finals race. We then head to the Roosters versus the Sharks. The Roosters, they've got Rima Butler back, coming back on via the bench after concussion protocols. Tanisha Gray moves back to 18th player. Millie Elliott is named back to start at prop after being a late change onto the bench last week. Alia Nasso moves back to the bench in that change. The Sharks, a big in Georgia Hanaway, a big inclusion in the halves for them at 6. Shante Kiriaratu will remain at halfback. Madison Ashby shifts back to the centres, and Cassie Staples moves back to the wing. They are without Ellie Johnson, which takes a real test on their forward depth against a stacked Roosters side. Suspended. Caitlin Johnson-Green will move from the bench to starting, and Talay Holmes starts in the second row. Her second game back after having a baby. China Pilata, a good in for the Sharks, returning via the bench. But they've been in all sorts, and this game against the ladder leaders and undefeated Roosters couldn't come at a worse time, it's fair to say. The Roosters still the benchmark. The Sharks do get a halfback boost there with their halves return. This is a big measuring stick game for Cronulla. Not necessarily about the end result, maybe more about the scoreline and the resilience they can show as we head into the final few rounds. Saturday night, we got the Cowboys versus the Knights. It's do or die for the Knights. For the Cowboys, no changes to the 1-17, same side that held on against the Dragons. Charlize Lloyd-Phillips stays on the wing after making club history last week as the first player to score an NRLW hat-trick for the Cowboys. Kayla Jackson comes in as the 18th player. For the Knights, Leanne White is named again at fullback. She did end up starting there. She'll replace Lucy Spain, who drops back to the bench. Farnay Finau starts in the second row, promoted from 18th player. Jules Kirkpatrick drops back from the second row to 18th player. Keep an eye out on that Spain-White decision for Ben Jeffries on game day and whether or not he makes the change up against his former side. Cowboys reward a winning side with some consolidation and consistency. The Knights make a few role swaps after falling just short after a slow start against the Tigers. The Cowboys' continuity could be important here, especially in the heat in Townsville. We then go to the Warriors and Dragons Sunday, just before lunchtime Australian Eastern Time, over there in New Zealand, though, for the Warriors, their third fullback in 3 weeks. Injuries now to Arpi Nichols, their superstar, and captain, and Amanita Parkey force another reshuffle. Anastasia Sakane returns from injury and will make her club debut at fullback. Arpi Nichols is named as 18th player, trying to overcome that hand injury, so could be a late inclusion. Lavinia Tohalikau returns on the wing, while Peyton Takimona moves to the reserves. Matakino Gray returns from injury, starts at prop, and Kaya Arte starts in the second row, with Mare Pukatapu shifting to lock. For For the Dragons, Shanae Sisiolka is out, the Queensland representative. Tara Ekapati will start at centre. Nita Maynard-Perrin also out with a dislocated elbow. Brooke Anderson will shift into hooker, and a Southwell drops back from the front row to lock, and Amelia Huakawa will start at prop. Soraya Palapale is named for a potential NRLW debut on the bench. Talia Fuamano, listed in the reserves, working back from a shoulder injury, could be a huge late boost for the Dragons. Warriors are still being forced into reshuffles. The Dragons lose some experience and have to reshuffle as well through their spine and middle. There's plenty of moving parts in this one. It's going to be a tipster's nightmare. We head to the Eels versus the Broncos. Sunday, 1:45 at Western Sydney Stadium. The Eels, no changes. Same winning side from last week's victory over the Sharks. Back-to-back wins. Although keep an eye, Kennedy Cherrington named as 18th player as she's pushing to return after a facial fracture. A lot of questions about late reshuffles this round in the NRLW. For the Broncos, they need to snap a 3-game losing streak and they get the best return they can. Ali Brigginshaw back from her 3-game suspension. Remembering, before this suspension, she had not missed an NRLW game that this club had played. A huge inclusion. She'll partner Jessie Southwell in the halves and give them some balance again. Georgia Bartlett shifts back out to the centres with Julia Robinson going to the wing. Destiny Brill out with a calf injury. Regan Hicks promoted to prop. Lillian Yarrow shifts to lock, and Bree Spreadborough moves to the bench. In terms of the takeaways here, Brisbane get their general back. She will run the ship, Brigginshaw. That changes everything for their organisation, to their game management. The Eels are stable, but the Broncos' spine looks much stronger with Brigginshaw back. You'd expect, unless there's something weird happening here, that they'll go in as very warm favourites to snap that losing streak. We then head to the Tigers versus the Bulldogs at Campbelltown on Sunday evening. This is a huge one. The Tigers in momentum, charging their way up the ladder. The Bulldogs on the back of a drubbing at the hands of the Raiders. For the Tigers, Shania Lendl starts at centre. Kayla Henderson drops to the reserves. Shanice Monschau back in to start at prop, with Christian Pio dropping to the interchange. Tara Rinke joins the bench. Tigers coming off that 1-point win from the boot of Racine McGregor up. They nearly let the result slip despite leading well early against the Knights. For the Bulldogs, well, it's a stable lineup, which is quite surprising. Evelyn Roberts returns to the bench. Ebony Price shifts out to the extended squad, with Monica Tagawai named as 18th player. The Tigers make a few positional tweaks after a thriller. The Bulldogs stay steady for the Battle of Western Sydney despite that huge loss to Canberra last week. Stability does matter, but they need to find a bounce back straight away, and it doesn't get easier against the Tigers. So that's your team list Tuesday for round 26 in the NRL, round 9 in the NRLW. Just 2 weeks in the NRL left, 3 weeks in the NRLW, 6 weeks in total across both competitions that will crown our grand final winners. Absolutely in the heating up, counting down time. There's stories everywhere. Of course, the Jai Arrow one is the biggest and the best of them all as he gets his special Rabbitohs milestone moment over the next 2 weeks. We've seen Adam Reynolds for the last time. Jerome Hughes is back for Melbourne. Jack Howarth is done for the season. Jack Cogger's suspended. Latrell Mitchell could be in this week. And James Tedesco is a game day watch. Tom Dearden and Jeremiah Nanai a huge boost for the Cowboys, while the Warriors are boosted by Tamare Martin. The Knights are at 6s and 7s, absolutely everywhere, dropping out players. On the NRLW, the Titans are chasing 8 straight. The Broncos get Ali Brigginshaw back as they try to break their losing streak. So that's your team list hit. Make sure if you haven't already liked the video, hit subscribe on the channel and jump into those comments. Tell me the team list change that matters the most this week for your side. Because we're at the pointy end now. There's no hiding. There's no passengers. There's no soft weeks or easy games. Every team list matters. Every game matters. Every injury and late change matters. From here, the run home's not building anymore. It is here. There's no time now to rest. Thanks for tuning into your home of the black and white of sport, and we'll catch you on the next episode.